What's up out there to all of my fellow gold diggers? This is your girl Rita, also known as the self-proclaimed gold digger. And today we are going to be talking about money, 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 money. All right, so I promised you guys some recorded videos. So I figured I would talk on money topics. I have been talking a lot on business topics. So this is part one. Part two will be coming out tomorrow as we dive into money. But of course, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am so glad to have you. But if you are a fellow gold digger, welcome back. I love and I appreciate each and every one of you. Okay. And I also want to give a quick thank you for everyone who helped me to reach 6,000 subscribers. Okay. I really, truly appreciate it. And as always, if you like my content, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, then please go ahead and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up button to like the video and share it with someone who you think can benefit from it. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this because this is going to be a really quick topic that we're going to discuss and some information that I think you should be aware of. All right, so this is a budget hack that you didn't even know that you needed. And today we are going to be talking about sinking funds, okay? Yes, sinking funds. Now, if you are not familiar with what sinking funds are, don't worry, we're going to go into it in this video. But the reason why this is a budgeting hack that you didn't know that you needed is because if you've ever had any surprise expenses or some unexpected expenses or things that hit your budget that you just were not necessarily anticipating, and they're not part of like your regular everyday or monthly expenses, then you need to strongly consider creating a sinking fund. Okay. um and the reason why is a lot of us, when we do create our budget, we are creating it for those who do budget. We create it for the month, and we are not always creating a budget or taking into consideration things that don't always occur on a monthly basis. Maybe they occur quarterly, maybe they only occur once a year, or twice a year or something like that, or it could be something kind of like something that just randomly happens, and that is where the sinking funds come into play and how they can be beneficial to you. So let's go ahead and get into it. I have my notes to stay on track because I'm trying to keep these videos down to a certain amount of time, so I'm not talking to y'all too long. Okay, so what is a sinking fund? Basically, what a sinking fund is money that you set aside for a specific expense. Now, it's not like a budget because this particular expense does not happen regularly or on a monthly basis. It's like sometimes you don't always see it coming, but it is an expense that you can anticipate. What do I mean by that? So let's say your expense is like car maintenance or something like that. Like your car's running okay, but in the event that it breaks down, you don't necessarily want to be pulling from your emergency fund or charging it on a credit card. So you would create a sinking fund for that. Or like Christmas expenses. You don't always want to necessarily drain your bank account or charge everything on a credit card around Christmas time. So you would create a sinking fund for that. Okay. So the sinking fund is for things that are not monthly expenses, but they are still things that inevitably they're going to happen or they're going to occur. Now, the way you can save this money, you can do it digitally, like online, like through your bank account. Like maybe you have an account set aside for this particular fund, or you can do cash envelopes. That's typically what I do, or what I did initially when I first started. Now I still have my envelopes, but I also have an online bank account where once so much gets in the envelope, I go ahead and transfer it into my online banking account. Okay, so however you choose to do it is up to you, but it can be done with just cash envelopes, or you can do it with an online bank account. All right, so just kind of take into consideration. So if hey, every Christmas I'm spending $800, typically around $800 on people's gifts, then you want to break out, like, what does that look? Well, let's make it easy. Let's say you're spending $600 every Christmas on Christmas expenses. So what that would look like is you setting aside $50 each month into your sinking account so that by the time December rolls around, you have the $600 you need and it's not a big hit to your account at one time for you to do it, okay? Now, if you set up these sinking accounts, they can definitely be a game changer. How can they be a game changer? Because they will stop you from using your credit cards. So it is a known fact that, credit card usage definitely increases around the holidays, like around Christmas time and stuff like that. And then you get hit with this bill in January or usually maybe even around February. After you done said, I'm going to be a new person, I'm going to do this new thing. And then you get hit with these expenses and you be like, oh, Lord, help me. So now, so now that will set you back, okay? So these can really change the trajectory of your finances and how you're managing your money. So please take that into consideration. Also, it can help you feel less guilty about spending on stuff, or help you to just be more in control of the ways that you spend because you've planned on spending a certain amount. This can also be beneficial if you know, like, hey, you always go and celebrate this one friend's birthday and stuff like that. But usually when y'all go out, y'all have a good time, y'all party, y'all do all the best things, and you're spending like $200 for their birthday celebration. If you know that's typically what you spend, and then just go ahead and set up a sinking fund for birthday celebrations and just put $10 or $20 aside, whether weekly or monthly, so that when one of your friends has a big birthday celebration, you don't feel guilty about spending that money celebrating them or partying or having a good time because you've already set aside money for that, okay? Um, and this also helps you not to pull money from other accounts already that you might have set up in your budget. So gives your budget a little bit of breathing room, keeps you out of panic mode so you're not pulling funds from the light bill or from your mortgage or from your car note because you weren't necessarily anticipating or you didn't plan appropriately for this expense that was coming. All right. All right. So let's see. Let's move on. So you're like, well, this sounds all good and everything, but what can I use the sinking fund for? Okay. So that's what we're going to get into because I'm going to tell you some things that you might not consider that you might need to use or need to create a sinking fund for. We've already talked about a couple, but let's go a little bit more in depth. So you can create a sinking fund for things that are seasonal or things that are annual. So that's like for your holidays, that's back to school shopping, which is like happening right now. Okay. Back to school shopping, when it's time to go on vacation, you can go ahead and create sinking funds for those kinds of things. You can also create sinking funds for your lifestyle habits. So if you get your hair done, you get your nails done, you can create a sinking fund for that so that that will help you stay in your budget and you don't overspend when it comes to your self-care days or your pampering days and things of that nature. Also, you can also create a sinking fund if you have annual subscriptions, whether that is a subscription like for a gym membership or another type of membership. Go ahead and set aside money for these kinds of annual expenses that might benefit your lifestyle. Now, the sinking funds can also be used for events that aren't like real emergencies, but it's kind of like urgencies or things that are adjacent to emergencies. So, like your regular car maintenance, like I have a sinking fund, like I know I need to get my oil change. So, instead of me having that one expense, every few months or whatever, I already have a sinking fund set up for that. Home repairs, if you know, hey, I know this appliance is 10 years old, soon it's going to break down. Go ahead and set aside, start saving up or create a sinking fund for those things or things that might need to be fixed around the house or just maintenance on your home. Like we had to have our AC looked at this year. We also we had a water main leak and stuff like that. So just different things like that, things that are going to happen around the house. You can have a fund for that, for those types of expenses. So when they do occur, you can be better prepared and it's not being charged necessarily to your credit card or having a big hit to your bank account or to your finances. Okay. Also, you can create a sinking fund for your insurance premiums. If you pay your whether it's your mortgage or your car insurance, you get different discounts or you get better discounts when you pay them annually versus monthly. So if you're already like knowing, hey, I'm paying my car insurance monthly, go ahead and just for next year or so, go ahead and set aside a sinking fund for that so you can save on the benefits of you actually getting the annual fee or the biannual fee, and that'll help you save money, and you're already setting aside stuff anyway. Okay, so those are some things you can consider to create a sinking fund for. Okay, now that was a lot. That's a lot of different things that you can use it for. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed with creating these sinking funds, okay? That is not the goal of this video. I want to make sure that make you aware, but that doesn't mean you got to change up everything immediately or creating all these different accounts at one time. So I would just suggest pick 1 to 2 categories that are always already stressing you out, or always stressing you out, or always messing up your income, messing up your finances. Pick 1 or 2 of those areas that keep seeming to be reoccurring, and go ahead and try to set up a sinking fund for that. Set a goal, break it down monthly about what you might need to contribute to that sinking fund each month, and then just start from there. Okay, and you can use tools. You can check with your bank and see if they have tools that help you set up automatic savings so that it's automatically drafted and deposited into a particular account, or go ahead and set up, or get cash envelopes, because that's how I started. I just started with cash envelopes for my sinking funds. Okay, now before I close out though too, I do want to emphasize you should still have an emergency fund. You need to have an emergency fund, okay? But an emergency fund is not the same as a sinking fund, okay? Your emergency fund is literally for stuff that is unexpected, like a true emergency. Some of these things, like you're going to party with your best friend. Christmas is coming. It's on December 25th every year. You're going to be spending some money. Those are not necessarily emergencies. Or eventually you're going to have to get your car in to have the oil changed, or for maintenance and stuff like that. These expenses are coming up. Now, sometimes they might seem like they're coming up at the wrong time, and that's where the sinking fund comes into play, so that it doesn't catch you off guard and is not so unexpected. So true emergencies is like, hey, you got sick and now you had to go to the ER or something like that, or you got into a car accident, not your car broke down or something like that. Even though it seems like that's an emergency, but if you got an older car, it's gonna need some maintenance from time to time. So you need to be setting aside that or whatever. But if you got into an accident, or you got really sick and now you're at the ER, those are emergencies. The other stuff is emergency adjacent, but eventually stuff is going to happen. Okay, so they are for things that the sinking funds are for things that you knew were coming. Like, they're predictable. Like, they're coming. They're just not regular. Okay, you can't say, hey, it's going to happen on in January or whatever, but eventually it's going to happen. Now for Christmas, yeah, when it's going to happen. Okay, so I don't want you to confuse the two, the emergency fund and the sinking fund, okay? Because if you do so, then you're going to keep draining your emergency fund, and that is going to compromise you and your finances as well as your sanity, okay? All right, but that is pretty much all I had. So please, 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 please don't sleep on any sinking funds. Don't sleep on sinking funds any longer. Create a sinking fund for what you might need to. But like I said, don't get overwhelmed. Pick 1 or 2 things that you can create a sinking fund, and go ahead and get that set up for you, okay? And if this has been helpful for you, please go ahead and like the video, share it with a friend, and let me know in the comments section, what sinking funds do you plan on starting within the next month? All right. Until next time, take care, guys.